Happy to chat.
Oh, there we go. Um, I don't know where we left off yesterday.
Um, I feel like we kind of closed a loop when we left off yesterday. I should have listened to it, but I thought about it. I was like, I should listen to it so we can pick back up where we left off. But it's weird to listen to yourself a little bit. How do you
Yeah,
do it? Like,
I I'm gonna give you a little bit of honesty. I don't listen
you
to
don't
myself.
re-listen?
No, no.
Is that why you don't edit them? Because you don't want to
Um,
go back through
yes. And then also just to keep on the whole thing of it being totally raw.
and like transparent?
Yeah, and like I think I've had to edit one, simply because the lady was under contract at the time for her cycling career and might have said something that could have jeopardized it. So I had
Oh
to cut
yeah.
it in half. So I was like, okay, no problem. Like, I'll definitely take that out and we can share that between the two of us. And that doesn't need to be shared with the world. You know what I mean? But other
Yeah,
than
for
that,
sure.
like, nah, like I share the conversation with yourself, and then it's, you know, people kind of share the conversation with us just audioly, which is kind of strange. Although shout out to everyone who's been listening. I got some massive feedback yesterday. It was really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know a couple of my friends tuned in, but I didn't know how wide it went.
Yeah, it was dead cool. I had a member from the gym down here in Christchurch. Said he related really heavily to you when you said, oh, what part was it? Oh, identity. Like
Oh
losing your
yeah.
identity
Like,
through like losing an action of like physical expression or sport.
yeah.
Mm, that's a big
I
one.
know. And that's why, like, when we were kind of wrapping up, we were talking about how, like, it's important to continue to have these types of conversations about mental health, and even just like, I think it goes deeper than even mental health, and just in general, be people being able to be vulnerable and talk about their feelings without being looked at as
Mm,
like a wuss or whatever. Um, because again, it comes back to the thing where, like, if I say it once, like, if I even so much as like mention that I have anxiety in one of my stories, I have like 15 people being like, I totally relate to that. Oh my God, you're not alone. And before I had the opportunity to share these things with people, or had the courage to talk to my friends about how I was feeling, I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was insane. I thought I was going crazy all of the time. And it was like such a scary thing to go through by myself. Um, so that's why when you asked me about this, I was like, yeah, I feel like that's the thing I want to talk about, that I struggle to talk about, like I said, like putting it into words and writing to actually speak about on my social media platform. But it's something
mhm.
that I feel like I would like to share with people that are in the weightlifting world or go through the same thing, because I never never hate connecting with anybody about it and
Mhm.
having a more of a conversation about it, and I hope that someone who feels alone in their struggle or their journey realizes that they're not, through things like this.
100%. Like vulnerability, that's a real big thing for me, like especially growing up as a male, right? And I think the greatest metaphor for life is the barbell, right? Because it doesn't care who put their hands on it. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't fucking give a shit about you. It's gonna weigh 20 or 15 kilos. It's the same every single day.
Hmm.
Like it comes in or when you come in. So kind of showing vulnerability to one another, it's hard. Like, and I
Uh-huh.
think the greatest feat of strength, again from a dude's perspective, is a dude showing another dude some vulnerability.
Yeah. And even like, even like, and this is personal to me, but every single female who's dating a man will say the same. Like, my relationship with my boyfriend, even like, he's injured right now, and I'm watching him go through this, and he's like, he doesn't struggle with depression or anxiety. He has a very normal brain, which I envy and wish all the time I had that. But he's like a sensitive person. He's great with me. Like he's been like my rock 1,000 times. We've been best friends for like 6 or 7 years, and we started dating a little over a year ago. And like it, but anyways, I'm watching him struggle with this injury, and it's hard to watch because but watching him kind of process it, like he doesn't want to stop, but it's like I keep having to go back and be like, it's time to stop, it's time to stop. And then finally I got to a point where I was like, you can't keep doing this anymore. Like you have to stop and let yourself heal. And I know that it's difficult. And it like part of why he doesn't want to stop is because he's admitting that he's like not capable of doing it. And that's like an emotional thing. And he is getting super emotional because he's not able to perform, and he's like going through this like roller coaster of like feelings about the fact that he can't really squat even like in squat. He's more into powerlifting now. He does a lot more powerlifting, but he was doing an Olympic weightlifting cycle with me. He just wanted to compete at the same time, and he's gone in and out of that his entire weightlifting career. So when he switched over, he's like, I literally just signed up to do this, and now I can't even go below parallel. So it's like really frustrating. And it is interesting because if that were a female, that would be a person like having their emotions out there, like crying about it in the gym, like openly talking about it with their friends. But he's like barely able to talk to me about it, and he's not even like a guy that doesn't recognize feelings. He's just a guy, so he's not supposed to. And that's like such a hard thing to watch.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think it's because we're hardwired to deal with our emotions physically. So like non-verbally,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And anyone that gets into the gym, whether it's, you know, to pick up girls at the start whenever they fucking picked up a dumbbell, or whether it's to deal with whatever off the spot, right? Like it's usually because they've got some sort of feeling and emotion inside of them that wants that outcome, and they train to deal with that feeling, right? They might not know it at the time, but they'll think back and be like, holy shit, yeah, I trained because I was feeling anxious or a little bit down or like not got a lot of confidence or anything like that. So we're kind of hardwired to deal with it physically. And yeah, like I completely relate to your fella in the sense of if you can't do that, then what else have you got left?
Yeah. And it goes back to that thing where like it's so much a part of our purpose and our identity that, and especially him, like he was a regionals athlete years ago, a CrossFit regionals athlete years ago, and was like super, super into CrossFit. And he, even after he kind of like stopped chasing any sort of CrossFit dream, he still very heavily ties his identity back to strength sports, and like is always doing some sort of powerlifting or bodybuilding program. And like I said, we built a gym in the middle of the pandemic in the garage. Like so many people were like, oh yeah, and then the gym's closed and I lost my way. And I was like, I literally can't relate less. Like I would spend my last dime trying to make sure that I had a place to work out. So I can't relate. But so it is hard. And like I can't imagine from the perspective of like it's hard enough for me to talk about anything that I'm going through with my mental health or my issues like that. And if you're a guy who's dealing with those things, it's like especially here in the US, it's just not as accepted to be able to talk about it, and it's not fair.
Yeah, I think it's the same across all Western countries, if I'm honest.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Everything I hear is very similar. Everyone I speak to personally, like everything that they're saying, it's kind of blanket across the board. And it's a hard one to be able to tackle, right? It's where do you start? Where do you draw the line? Do you go male, female? Do you go male, male, female, female? Like I don't know. I really don't know. But I think everything starts with open communication. Being like we said
Yeah.
yesterday, right? Hey, I'm not doing too well at the moment. And if you feel more comfortable doing that to a guy friend, then go do it to a guy friend. Or if you feel it more comfortable to go do it to a lady friend, then go do it to a fucking lady. Like it's whoever, just confide in someone else of like, hey, things are a little bit rough at the moment. Cool. That's first barrier done. Right. Let's get on to the second one, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what it's like for you guys to get like help with like from professionals and stuff, but that's always like one of the first things I say to someone who's struggling is like, I mean, I've gone in and out of therapy for like years of my life. My since I was like 16, I've been going to therapy on and off, and it's I always say like, well, I was a psychology major, so I never looked at it as I
Mm,
think everybody should. Like I, I think every single person should, especially if you're like an adult who has a job. Like you have to deal with real life stressors. Like you should go to therapy. Like you shouldn't always be leaning on your friends, even if you feel like you have great friends that you want to lean on. There's just some things that like you should teach yourself to work through within yourself and like look to yourself with confidence as the person that you can confide in when you're low as well. And that's something that I've learned from therapy. But the thing that's hard to sit here and be like, you should really go see a therapist, it would really help you a lot, is there's like a connotation that it's not like you go to a therapist if there's something
mm,
wrong with you. And B, I right, so before I told you, before my last weightlifting meet, the one I bombed out at, I like knew I wasn't okay. Like I knew that I needed to try to see a therapist. So I started kind of doing my research and I wanted to try to get a good one. And I hadn't seen a therapist since like probably like August or September of the year prior of 2020. And I started thinking about it. And then right after that weightlifting meet, I had like an absolute panic attack, like mental breakdown, couldn't handle it. And I was like, this is not okay. I can't live my
mm,
life at this level where I'm waiting for myself to like get to the point where I can't even breathe because like one inconvenience happens. So I called my doctor and I explained what was going on with me. And they like referred me to my therapist. And that was in July. And I don't have an appointment until like November.
oh,
Whereas if I were physically sick, they would get me in right away. So it's difficult because it's not taken the same exact way as, which is crazy to me because I'm literally sitting here telling you I'm having a mental breakdown. Like
mm,
that's not okay. Like for a lot of people, that could mean potentially suicide or something like that. And I am lucky enough to have support and that I have like a good group of people around me, and I'm lucky enough that I've talked to them about it a lot and they all know that this is what I'm going through. But so I can wait till November, but like what if I couldn't? And it's just
mm,
crazy because I want to be like, go get professional help, but it's very hard to get professional help in a timely manner. And once you get to it, it's not always exactly what you thought it would be.
mm, mm. Like that's really important. I find that really crazy. Like that sparked a couple memories. Like I've reached out to get professional help a couple times, right? And every
Yeah.
time I've either been met with like a blanket response of, oh, it's gonna cost you this amount. I'm like, cool. Like you didn't even fucking even acknowledge my name and you just kind of threw numbers at me. I was like, brilliant, fantastic.
Yeah.
I won't be seeing you. Um, but I remember like maybe a year ago, maybe just under. Like I reached out for two different places here in the city, and I never got a response.
That's so crazy to me. Like someone's literally telling you that they're struggling with something that could kill them and you don't answer.
Yeah, yeah. But like
It's
here's rough. Like here's really rough in the sense of they have the highest rate of teen suicide in the Western world, which to me like just makes me want to cry all day. Like that's and fucking fires me up at the same time because I'm like, no more
right.
kids gonna swing themselves. Like this is not on. But I was working in a school as their like S&C coach, right? And I was conversing with one of the teachers, and they turned around because I'm obviously write about this stuff too and create all that type of stuff. So I was like, oh, what's your like mental health procedure? What happens if the kids turn around and talk to you about this stuff? She was like, oh yeah, like legally we're supposed to change the subject. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, no, by law, we have to like not acknowledge any suicide, self-harm, or anything like that. we have to change the subject. And if they're adamant they want to continue on down that path of the conversation, we have to push them to the local council, i.e., like what would it be, like the province, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only information we can kind of know, and we can't bring it up again. And I literally just looked at her and I was like, listen, I respect you're bound by some laws and some rules because you're an employee, but I'm a subcontractor. I am not bound by those rules. I am not obeying by those rules. Like if a kid turns around and gives me the respect and honesty of like, hey, I'm not doing too well, I'm not going to push him away.
That's insane that that's the way that they handle it. I can see being like, you need a third party in the room just
Yeah,
because
that's fine.
you can't do anything with kids now, but
Yeah,
like, wow, that blows my mind that that's the way that that would be handled. I don't
honestly,
know what the I
it,
don't know what the rules are like here for teenagers, but I can't imagine it's like that. They would definitely get the counselor involved.
we
And I
have
think
to,
people
right?
are definitely, yeah, like, I don't know. I think people are a little bit more open here about it. I think it's becoming a bigger conversation, thankfully.
Like I was on a call yesterday, and I've just been invited to a wellness week at like a big private hospital here in like throughout the country, right? And one's based
Mhm.
in this city, and they invited me to come talk to some employees and whatnot. And they were like, "Oh, what do you want to talk about?" It's like, well, I could talk about anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
whatever you want. So I kind of dish out a couple of topics and whatnot, and it kind of got to the point where it was just like, "Oh, well, we don't really want it to be, like too much of a downer. So can you just come in and just be like, things are tough. We're all in this together. Keep going. Keep everything positive. Well done, and keep going." And I was like, "What the fuck? I ain't no
Oh,
cheerleader, pal. Like so I obviously I can read between the lines. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure, I can do that, no problem. And I'll go in and be like, listen, motherfuckers, like this ain't gonna fly. I'm not here to stroke your balls and be a cheerleader. Like this is the
yeah.
way it is. But it's just the mentality of it. And I'm like, especially kids, right?
It's
If kids are
yeah,
willing to
especially
take their own
kids.
life, it's a fucking problem.
Yeah, and the thing about it is too is when you're a kid, you don't understand what it is. Because I remember getting super frustrated with things. Like I would get super, super frustrated because I didn't understand what was happening in my head, and I was like, "Why do I
Yeah.
feel like this?" And to be honest, I don't think I got really depressed as a kid. I think so I'm not I'm not technically diagnosed with, but I've had multiple therapists tell
Hmm.
me that they think I have ADD and that's what causes my anxiety, which is what causes my depression, which is a super common thing.
Hmm.
And it's because, so even my teachers as a kid apparently told my parents that they thought that I had ADD. And my
Wow.
parents were like, "Oh, well, they're just going to put her on medicine. That's going to change her personality. So we don't want to do it." But in my opinion, what I wish they did, and everybody can go back and tell their parents what they think that they did wrong. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm alive and I can stand on my own 2 feet. So my parents did great. But but in my opinion, what I wish they did and what I hope that parents in our generation learn from like so many kids going untreated with mental health issues and learning disabilities and things like that is I wish that if you didn't want to put me on medicine, I get it. I'm glad that they didn't, but I wish they gave me the tools to be able to like manage my learning disability because I just felt stupid my whole life. And then I would get anxious about it. And then that turned into like frustration and like self-hate as I got older. So I think that's like a big thing is being able to like recognize when your kids have something wrong and maybe not throwing that at them and labeling them with it, but like if you think your kid is dealing with something, like give them the tools to survive, give them the tools to like outlet and figure it out and stuff like that. Like I feel like that wasn't provided eh, to like so many 80s and 90s kids growing up. It was just kind of like, all right, rub some dirt on it and figure it out. Like, And now we're all riddled with anxiety.
Yeah, yeah. Now we're all fucked. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like we all know the definition of insanity. Like, Einstein's a pretty popular dude. Like we all know
Yeah.
who he is. We all know what insanity means. Yet we still fucking do it and be like, yeah, this is definitely the right thing to do. You're like, okay, like, is it working? Ah, not really. It's like, cool. So we probably need to change some things, right? No, no, no. Stay true. It's gonna work out.
Well, this is what my parents did. I'm like, well, how
Yeah.
did that work out for you, Dad?
Yeah. How are you? Pretty fucked. Like, there
Yeah.
you go.
But I think even their generation is either against talking about it or acknowledging it at all, or they're just coming to the realization that they have these issues. Because now I look at both my parents, and my dad is on his own journey with mental health, and I'm really proud of him for like taking these steps. But my dad did not face the fact that he has mental health issues until after him and my mom went through a divorce, and my mom still won't admit it. And I have to say, my mom's life, like, my mom had the craziest life. Like, growing up as a kid, she had, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but she had an absolutely insane life. Like, my mom is a warrior, the things that she has been through. And it makes me sad because I'm like, you reached this point that you should feed yourself by giving yourself the help that you deserve and acknowledging that you had a hard life and that you might need more help. And she just refuses it. She acts like it's not real. Like, she doesn't have any
Mhm.
sort of trauma responses that deserve help professionally. And it's really frustrating because that's what that generation is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. Like, but I think we've got a really big responsibility, but to like walk the walk, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like something that really blew my mind, and to be honest, the penny only dropped after the fact. Is like, I made this book, right, and it went out, um, and my dad ended up ordering one, and he didn't even know I fucking wrote anything. Um,
Yeah.
he ended up ordering one, and first of all, the first thing he said was, "Do I have to pay for it?" It's like, okay, that's typical, like northern dad. Okay, I appreciate that, pal. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm on the other side of the world, so it might take a while if I send it. All right, so it's probably going to get to you quicker if you just fucking order it
And
from,
I'll have to pay for it
and
to
I'll have to
send it
pay
to
for it.
you.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, I have to buy my own frigging book, and then I'll have to send it to you. But nah, he read it right and turns around and be like, how you doing? I'm like, well, you've asked me how I'm doing, so I'm going to meet you with some honesty. Like, nah, it's pretty rough sometimes. And then he like asked some questions in the sense of, do you think it was because I wasn't around a lot? And I'm like, holy shit, like, it's taken a long time to get here, but now because I've just turned around and been like, well, you know what, like, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm going to go do my own route, and I'll just try and help people along the way, right? And because
Hmm.
I'm just actively doing that, he's now come back to me and been like, wow, apologize, I'm sorry, let's kind of like talk about this a bit more. Like, and he was always
Hmm.
like the sense of, you know stiff upper lip, nothing's ever wrong. Although
Yeah.
wickedly on like some antidepressants for a long time, which just completely did not work well for his personality, just sent him a bit loopy.
Yeah. And I think that's the sad thing because and I think also, and I'm not against antidepressants or taking medicine. I think that there are other things that you need to also supplement or try first,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. You know what I mean? And like, I'm at kind of a point with my journey that even like like I said, I'm going back to therapy in November, but I already made an appointment with the psychiatrist to do some testing so I can potentially start taking some medication because I'm at a point now where I'm like, I've been going to therapy for like half my life and my issues are feeling like they're getting progressively worse. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens when you grow up and stuff. So I'm by no means against taking medication if you have some sort of mental health issue, but I do think there's so much to be said about healing the root of all these issues. And like, every single person can trace it back. Even, and that's the thing, people are like, I didn't have a bad life. Like, I did not have a bad life. I grew up, you know, middle class. I had everything I needed all the time. I barely wanted for anything. I had two parents that loved me. I got to play sports all the time. But there, like, regardless of that, there are things that, like, I was missing, or I went through, that I didn't, that just hindered my development emotionally or mentally, that I would like to heal those things. And I think that everybody should go back and do that, whether you know, grew up in a very traumatic way, or you didn't and you just have something off with you, that's there's nothing wrong with it. But I think it's fair to say, like, you should go back and untangle and find out why you are the way you are, so that you can understand yourself better, so you can be the person that heals yourself at the end, you know?
Mm. Yeah, and it's, it might sound a little bit hippy dippy, but this is what it is. We're all on a journey, right? And that's what your life is.
Hmm.
It's a journey, whether you think there was something before and there's something after, whether you think this is the start and end, it doesn't matter. We're still on a fucking journey, and it's like learning through. And I think that's really important. The last thing you said is like, you're going to end up healing yourself from the decisions that you make. Don't turn around and expect someone else to come in and wave their magic wand and be like, okay, you're now absolutely fine. It's like, no, you've got to
Yeah.
take the initiative and you've got to do this thing. And that, I think, well, especially for me, that's dropped the penny. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's hard if it's expensive, so it's hard. But
Mm,
I yeah, I think too, like, me going through my journey of, like, understanding, and honestly, a lot of me dealing with my own mental health issues, it's not all 100% tied to therapy. It's a lot of it is, like, rooted in the fact that I weightlift and I do a lot of yoga and I meditate, and I do the weird thing of listening to self-help books sometimes and starting to try to pick away at the things about myself. But I reflect, I think about what I'm actually feeling and what I'm going through and why I feel certain ways about things. And I try to, when I have, like, an angry response or an upset response to something that isn't that big of a deal, I don't just let myself feel that. I think about, why is it that I'm feeling that way?
mhm.
And it helps me understand, you know, where some of these things are coming from, so that I can grow. Because I don't know, I kind of used to just, like, walk around with a chip on my shoulder. I was angry all of the time,
Yep.
and I just realized that wasn't, like, the way that I should be living my life. And me looking inward at myself has helped me a lot in understanding other people and what drives them and what motivates them and why they make decisions. So when I disagree with someone, like right now, our country is so divided. It's insane. Like, there's the left and there's the right, and then there's these people in the middle like me, that I'm just like, I think you're both wrong and I think you're both right. And and I think it's so, if you disagree with someone even a little bit, you become enemy number one. And it's really difficult to, like, live this way, because I think if you just looked at someone, like, for example, me and my boyfriend, if you look at the two of us, we grew up very differently. And and he's a guy, so he has this lens that I'll never have. So a lot of the ways that he thinks politically or morally are different than the way that I think politically and morally. But I'm not mad that he thinks that way, and I'm not mad that he doesn't share my opinion. I very much recognize it's because you grew up this very specific way that I'll never experience. You know what I mean? And I think that if people could, like, look in at themselves and understand why they're driven to think the way that they think, and heal themselves in their own wounds, then they would look at other people and be like, maybe not be best friends and be, like, hugging and whatever, but at least have a little bit more understanding in why they come from what they come from, and not be so hateful to people that think differently.
100%. Like the one true journey is the journey of self-reflection, right? And being able to figure out
Mhm.
who the fuck you are. And I think that's the hardest thing. And it changes day to day and every day, right? Like it's in the I'm writing a new one, right? Another book, and it's right at the end.
Nice.
Thank you. And it goes along, if I remember correctly, which I probably won't, but and I'll probably butcher it, but whatever. It goes along the lines of like, every night I kill myself because every day I wake up a new man.
Yeah.
And it's like, kind of coming to the terms with, well, because of yesterday's lessons, it's going to change the way I am today. So I have to learn
Okay.
who I am today. It's kind of like every day you wake up, you look yourself in the mirror, and you are a different person. Physically, you might look very much the same, but you are actually very much a different person. You're learning that person every day, right? And if you kind of attack the day that way, you can understand other people so much better. So much.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that.
Thank you. Um, it's
And
kind of it's kind of funny because that just fucking came to me whenever I was in the deep dark pit, sat on a rock watching the sea. But
yeah,
I was pointed out to me that it kind of links with an old like Japanese samurai kind of mythology, and I was like, wow,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
that's super cool.
Yeah, mate, it will forever blow my mind how people can relate to struggles who are so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's the we kind of talked a little bit about it yesterday. You're constantly looking for, like, your brain is naturally looking for patterns and things
Mhm.
that make you similar because you don't want to be alone. Like, even if you're one of those people that are like, I'm introverted, I don't fuck with anybody, like, you do.
Were you trying to do
By
an impression
nature,
of
you're
me?
no. Is that how you are? Actually, I can see that. I can see that.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Those people that hate people, I can't relate more. I can't
Nah, nah.
relate at all.
I don't
It's
hate people.
uh,
It's
I'm
weird. Like
such a people person.
I'm an introverted people person.
That's like, that's a big thing that people talk about. There's a book called Quiet, and it's about introverts, and I read it because I cannot even wrap my head around that at all. And I just, like I said, I was a psychology major and I love understanding people. So I wanted to know what the other side was like. And
Mm.
you should read it. Well, you live it. So I guess you maybe don't need to read it, but it's a good book for anybody who's in like relationships or friendships with people who are introverted, because if you're an extrovert, you just don't understand. And even like, so I get a lot of energy from being around certain people.
Mhm.
And then, and I do understand the thing of feeling drained from certain people, because there are situations where, like, I don't know, I think I'm a little bit of an empath in a sense that, like, if the room is really exciting and stuff, I just get a different energy from different people. So there are certain people that, like, I truly, like, I have great friends of mine that I know that I have like a time limit with,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
get so drained from their energy that I just can't be around them for that long, or there's certain like situations that I can be with them in. And so I understand the introverted thought process of being around people drains my energy, but like, I don't I don't understand how people are so introverted and just want to be alone. I'm like, I always want to be with someone or always want to be talking to someone. It's so funny.
I think yeah, it's strange, and I love hearing the other side. I love hearing your side. You know what I mean? The extroverts, the people that gain so much from just kind of being super social. And I understand that to an extent,
Yeah.
because there's some people I gain so much energy from when I'm around, and that's like completely against my nature. And I think it's a combination between the two, right? Nature and nurture. Like kind of I would, I think back a lot to try and understand some things, and a lot of the time I kind of misunderstood in the sense of
Hmm.
like I'll do some certain things and be like, oh, like he's super like fucking arrogant or whatever. I'm like, well, do you know where that comes from? Like, yeah, because you're just like a dickhead. I'm like, great, okay, so you don't. I was like, well, I'm not from the nicest part, and it was just me and my mum, and it was like, well, you got to toughen up because my mum had a pretty abusive boyfriend. So you're like, that's where it comes from, pal. Like, it's not like I
Yeah.
want to be Mr. Hotshot. It's like, no, like
Right.
this is kind of nurtured into me. But also, like, I listened to something the other day, and fucking hell, it blew my mind. It's from Simon Sinek, right? And it was like the difference between introverts and extroverts. And he was like, extroverts wake up with no coins, and through social interaction they gain a coin, right? And then when they go to bed at
Yep.
night, the slate gets wiped. Introverts wake up with 5 gold coins, and through social interaction they lose a coin. So then when they're on their own, they're like then empty, and they need to like recharge. And I fucking listened to that. I was like, holy shit. Because if I'm in the gym all day, like I was in the gym yesterday, right? Yesterday was a crazy day. So we won't go
Because of the
into it.
flood.
Oh,
Was
I was in there for 20 minutes and it was like the roof's leaking. I was like, brilliant. Here we go.
no.
Let's start the day right.
Oh.
It's fine. It was literally like a 1-day storm. Everything's fucking fine now. Water's gone, but it was just absolutely bucketed down. The wind was going mental. So it's fine. It's fine. We're like figuring it out. You seen that meme where they're like cycling on a bike and it's just like everything's fine.
Or like the one with the dog and the whole room's burning.
Yeah, yeah,
Except in your situation, the whole room's flooding.
yeah. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. I've got this under control.
We're good.
Yeah. But yeah, like if I'm in the gym all the time and I've got to interact with people and you've got to like play that role, right? You've got to play that game sometimes. Like you've got to be the friendly guy, and I'm a friendly guy, but I'm not extroverted. I'm not the guy that will easily just pull himself out of his shell. I'm quite a shy individual naturally. It's fuck me. I get drained. Like my vision starts going. I'm like absolutely spent.
Well, and I can see that too, because even for an extrovert, jobs that you pour into people the way that you pour into people as a coach are really difficult. Like you're just constantly giving someone your energy, and it's something you're passionate about, so you're also doing it from like a much deeper place than just being like, you do step A and then step B. It's like you're trying to impart something on someone so that they can be better at the thing that you love, right? So that I can see that being really hard, especially for an introvert. And like I feel like that's why a lot of coaches struggle to like, or a lot of high level athletes won't necessarily be like high level coaches while they're training, because they want to continue to focus on their career. And even my coach, I feel bad. He was going to do the meet that I recently bombed out of. And then we were all like, oh yeah, we're going to do that one too. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do it. And we were like, why? Just do it with us. And he's like, that is so much energy for me to be coaching you guys all day and then go lift. Like, it's not worth it. And I was like, oh damn, like that sucks. But that's why when people are like, why don't you coach? And I'm like, because I'm still training. So that feels like too much to manage, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a full-time thing. I don't know how people do like both.
It's insane. Like I say I've got room for I've got room for 2 things. Well, you got room for like 3 things, right? You can like feed 3 heads of the dragon, and like work and training is 2 of them. You know what I mean? And like I always find that if I'm coaching a lot and then training a lot, like I can't manage a social life, in the sense of I'm introverted anyway. I don't really do much in terms of like a social life. It's not like I'm out every weekend getting on the piss, but it's like, no, like I'm literally so fucking tired. I'm really hard to like converse with. And I did it for a while. Like I train in CrossFit and competed in that, and you know, you go super fucking hard and you're always training or coaching or studying or whatever. And I can't do it anymore, man. Like if I'm going hard training, like I have to reduce my coaching hours. If I'm going hard coaching, like my training's whenever.
So is your full-time thing working at the gym? Like, what is your like main source of income?
That's a good question. Like, so I do.
Depends on the day.
Friday nights is where it's at. No. So yeah, I do loads of things. So obviously with the book, right? So that's kind of
Yep.
like I do all the marketing for that as well. Like that's been a journey to learn that.
Hmm.
Um so and paid talks, which is kind of cool. Just going to
That's really cool.
yeah, it's never something I ever thought about doing. But I made this book and some people ask about the story behind it and stuff. So it's like, oh well, yeah, I'm on the other side of the world, and I, on two separate occasions, I've not had a place to live, and I've lived in some pretty weird and wonderful places and sheds and cars and gym floors and all that type of stuff. And I kind of made it work, and I'm here today. And they're like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck?" And I'm like, "Ah, well, that's just kind of my life, my story, and that's the way it is." And I didn't really want to let that break me, and they want to hear me talk, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I do the gig at the gym. So just recently taken on a role of head coach at a gym here in Christchurch, which is really cool. Really
Nice.
grateful for that role, which is a lot of like computer work, if I'm completely honest. A lot of
Like
work
admin
behind the
stuff.
yeah, a lot of work behind the
Yep.
scenes. And then helping the coaches develop and upskill. So it's like coaching coaches, which is another difficulty, but I love it. I think it's so cool. And then I got my own PT clients that want to invest in me individually, and a little bit of physical therapy clients too. So different type of PT. So I do a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. And I feel like everybody in the fitness industry or in like the strength and conditioning world or weightlifting world, like you kind of, that's how you live, is like just multiple streams of things that you're doing, because
yeah,
it's hard to do just one of those things. And also because like, what are you going to be like, just do personal training? That can only fill so much time. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. It was really weird.
So
Like
that's really cool.
if you look at it, like from a business perspective, you're like, oh yeah, multiple streams of revenue. That's like clever to fill the bucket up with more water, right? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Like now I look at it that way, right? Now I look at it from the business heart, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's really fortunate that I was able to develop in that way. But the reason why I did multiple things and did all these different fucking upskilling and learning all these different traits was simply because it gave me more opportunity to make money because I was broke as fuck.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you have to, and that's the other thing. Like you have to make it work. You have
Yeah,
to do
man.
it. So
It's super, super, super humbling to be able to be in this position right now because I used to clean a theater. I used to take out all the theater, clean the whole thing, put it back in, set it up for events. And I used to do that like at silly o'clock in the morning before I used to go coach at the gym. And there was a
yeah.
time where like it was a difficult situation, right? I was ended up paying a couple of different rents simply because I was supporting someone at the time. We don't have to go into that, but shit hits the fan, and I was a broke boy anyway. So it's like, well, how the fuck am I going to afford that? So I had to work
Right.
literally 4 jobs, which was kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, it's humbling being in this position because I'm like, cool, now I get to steer the ship and help people come up the way I did, but in the same sense, not the way I did. So you don't have to go fucking scrub toilets and clean carpets to be able
Yeah.
to make a living in the fitness industry. And I honestly, Steph, if I think back to it, like I don't know why I'm still here in this industry. I should have quit a long time ago, but I'm still here.
I respect that a lot though, because like I'm super grateful for the position I'm in and the job that I have or whatever, but it also is like it's not my passion. Like I wish that I could figure out, and I'm still trying to see if there's a way that I can like weave my way into it slowly, but like I'm always me and my training partner all the time. We sit there and we're like, okay, and like the other day we went on this tangent about what if we opened a weightlifting gym and a coffee shop And I'm not going to tell you all the details because if we do it, I don't want someone else to steal the idea.
Yeah, yeah,
But we
yeah.
do this all the time. Like once a week, we go into fantasy land where we live in a world where we're not working our quote unquote 9 to 5, where we both actually work like 8 to 8 and work weekends. And like, it's, I feel like I would gladly do that if I was like pouring into people the thing that I love. But I, for whatever reason, found myself on this different path and haven't been able to steer myself away from it because I am afraid of like the insecurity of the fitness industry. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm.
Especially after the pandemic. I'm like, what did everybody do? How did people make money?
Um, it was yeah, it was rather rough, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
Like
And
if you're
that's
not
like,
seeing people, like you're not getting paid.
no, that's such a crazy place to be. And I just like, I felt so bad for like, so I go to like a Globo gym, 24-hour fitness, and I'll do that to do like my accessory days or some of my lighter weightlifting days. I have like a weightlifting barbell there and they have bumper plates. So I there's like a bunch of those around here. That's like a kind of a chain gym around here, but I know the general manager. Like I've been going there for years, so we talk a lot, and I like know all the personal trainers and all the front desk people. And I was so sad when they had to shut down. And a lot of gyms that are privately owned just defied it and stayed open.
Mhm.
But because they're like a corporate gym, they had to shut down. And I was like, yeah, like maybe they're getting unemployment, but like that sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't get to do their job. And like also unemployment, I'm sure wasn't enough. Like
Mm.
I can't imagine it was enough. The US government doesn't take care of its people. Are you kidding me? Like, so I don't know. It was hard to like just see that. And then my friends who are coaches, like doing virtual classes and stuff. And like, they got by and that they were lucky enough to have the opportunity to do virtual classes. But even like so many gyms shut down and it's sad. It sucked.
Yeah, like it posed a really difficult thing to navigate around. Like we did the whole virtual classes, and we'd prefer to provide that than nothing. You know what I mean? But we
Yeah.
completely empathize with the members when they turn around and be like, I didn't really want to jump on simply because I don't think it's like the same. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think it's the same either. But we are getting through this together, and we would rather provide you with something and you don't take it than nothing and you wanted to take it, especially people that are locked down on their own, right? Like that's a very difficult time.
Oh, I don't know how people did that.
I would have loved it. Leave me
Oh,
alone. Can we extend lockdown, guys? Like, can we? It's just me and my
comes
cat.
comes out 9 months to a year later, just happier than ever.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I had a great time. What were you doing? Oh, nothing. Just kind of like
Literally nothing.
worked
What
and
about what about that Olympian from the Philippines that what's her name? She won bronze at the Olympics this year, and she was the first woman to win a medal in the Philippines. It was like a huge deal for them. And
yes.
she literally like didn't have like because a lot of these higher level athletes have their own home gyms and have all this stuff, but the Philippines had like a really super strict lockdown the way that they did everything. And like I don't know, I don't remember the exact details, but my whole team has family ties in the Philippines, so I remember somewhat of hearing like they could have like one person in their household go out to get food or something. There was something like that. Like it was like the way that they did their rules were like it was very strict.
Hmm.
And so she basically trained with like a broomstick and bands for months and then came back and won a medal at the Olympics.
I watched
That
that.
was crazy.
I watched that category and the lift. That was absolutely electric.
Like how do you do that?
I think it's I think it's the mental toughness. And it's just the tenacity of people.
Yeah, and honestly, like I was thinking about that this morning. I was like getting ready and I try to, especially when I'm in a cycle leading up to something that I have a big goal for, like this. I'm competing in like a month and a half, and I try to like look at myself in the face every day and like visualize the thing that I want and like tell myself that that's what I'm going to do. Because
Hmm.
you know, if you go into something and say I'm going to try to
Hmm.
instead of I am going to, then you know, you're already giving yourself a percentage of a chance less than whatever you were going to do before. And I feel like that's it. Like that's, she had to have done so much mental training to get to the point where she went from broomstick to or whatever, bronze medal.
Hmm. Hmm. Like,
It was, yeah, that was nuts. It was really cool too, because I do have so many friends that have ties to the Philippines, and that they were just so proud. Like it was such a cool thing to see how like proud they were to have that.
yeah, it's massive. Like, and it's massive for the country too. And I think it's better that it was a lady that did it too,
Oh yeah.
rather than a dude. Because you just like
Yep.
look at this lady. Like, she absolutely, first of all, told all the stereotypes to go fuck themselves, and
Yeah.
then turned around and was like, "Oh, you want a world pandemic? Okay, cool, whatever. All right, throw that one at me too. Oh, you want me to train on my
Yeah,
own
for
with a
sure.
broomstick and some fucking resistance bands? All right, yeah, sound. Oh, like history,
Down.
we've never won a medal. Okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. And just rock up and just absolutely lay it on the line and just been like, well, you know what? Fuck yous. I did this. Like, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I think about it too. Like I wonder like what, because we talked a little bit about like my relationship with my coach and kind of the way that we approach adversity in my life outside of weightlifting and how that affects weightlifting.
Mhm.
I wonder like what these high level athletes, like what that looks like for all of them. Like yeah, like
Mm.
with their coaches, and do they have external people? Because I know a lot of colleges provide like a sports psychologist and stuff like that, and that's because it's such a big deal. And even like athletes like Kate and I and Maddie Rogers, like they're coming out and talking about their own issues. And like Maddie, you know, I love Maddie Rogers. Like
Mm.
I am such a Maddie Rogers fan. Like through all the
Same.
things, watching her be able to go to the Olympics, like I cried when they announced it. Like I was so psyched for her because she really, really pushed. And I don't care what anybody has to say about anything in USA weightlifting, like she is a gritty lifter and she deserved it the most out of anybody to be able to get to that spot, because she
Yeah.
has been right there for so many years and she just clawed her way out, and watching her do that was beautiful. But it sucked that she's sitting there and being like, you know, I had like a panic attack in the back room, and I'm like, okay, well, A, you still totaled, so fuck, I don't know how you did that.
Hmm.
But B, she got a lot of hate for saying that, and people were like, "You're just making excuses. Like you're not mentally tough." And it's like, yeah, I'm literally telling you that I wasn't mentally tough enough to handle this moment, and that I'm having an issue, and like you're sitting here hating me for it. And it's like, as far as we can go with the mental health conversation, like wrapping it back to moments like that, you're like, that's why people don't talk about it, because everybody's a dick about it. Like
Yeah.
the second someone that's high level that you expect to do well at something is like, this is why I didn't, and you're saying it's an excuse, like, no, have you ever had a panic attack? Because I can't even breathe when I'm having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and this girl just totaled at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And
so I
like,
don't know, I wondered like what her conversations with her coaches in the back were like what was Amy Everett saying to her in the back during that, you know?
mm, I'd love to be on the fly on the wall, but I guess that's between coach and athlete, right? And it's all personalized.
Yeah.
But like, something that pisses me off is like people that complain about that shit, right? Have never played competitive or high level sport,
No.
like never in their fucking life. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we're gonna take it out of the sport realm. Like, you've got stresses in your family or your work and you relate it to them, right? And you're like, well, what do you feel like when shit really hits the fan? They're like, oh, well, it's pretty fucked, right? And mentally, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm like, cool. Now put the fucking world's eyes on you and make you do a physical sport where you have to lift an excessive amount of load, it's going to
Yeah,
be a little bit worse, right? Just a tad,
just a tad.
just a little bit. And they're like, oh, well, no, they're athletes. They should be better. I was like, what do you think? Are they fucking superhuman? What, just because they get like a pro card of like, you're now a semi-pro slash pro athlete, does that mean you no longer feel emotion? It's like, no, motherfucker. Like, in fact, they feel more because they've got all day to think about it rather than like you get to go home and do whatever. It's like it's their
Yeah,
job to go 24/7 thinking about this thing and do 6 bloody lifts.
yeah, yeah. And that's like any, I feel like that's like any high level athlete. Like when, like, like they're just expected. It's so crazy the way that the world holds athletes up on this like pedestal. It's so crazy.
Mm,
Even the other day, it's funny because like when you actually talk to any of them, they're just normal and weird like us. And the
yeah.
other day, I was at this like weightlifting meetup thing at a local gym, West Coast weightlifting, and a bunch of different clubs came out to just meet up and lift heavy because the North American Open 2 is coming up and it was their last max out. It was such a cool event. I had such a blast there. And there's a lifter there who used to be like a really big name, and she was like one of the top 75 kg weightlifters in the country when that was a weight class, and I'm a 76 kilo lifter, so I was a 75 in the past, and I was like a huge fan of hers. And I saw her there, and so basically she got caught, doing some SARM or something like that. And I remember the meet that she did it at, because that she got caught at, because it was the first ever American Open series and it was in Reno, and I was there and I was in her session, and I watched her snatch 1 kilo below the American record, and I was like, why didn't she just go up? Because it was so easy. I was like, why did she leave that on? Why did she leave that on the line?
Mm,
And then later it came out that she had popped for something, and I was like, that's why she did that, because she was probably trying to avoid getting tested or something.
mm,
But regardless of that, I was always a huge fan of her, because even still, whether or not you're taking something to snatch what she snatched at that time was very impressive. And she was like just a super gritty lifter, like watching her save some of these cleans that she grinded out and then would still make the jerk. And she's just like really strong. And I always really like admired her as a lifter.
mm.
And she just like fell off the face of the earth after that happened. Like she told, like her social media presence totally went away and stuff. And I was wicked sad to see that happen, because I was like, I get it, like I'd probably do the same thing. But um anyways, I saw her at this meetup the other day, and I was like, I have to go say something to her. Like I used to be such a fan of her. And I like went up and I was like, hey, and I was like, I could see her like absorbing it. Like, what is this random girl about to say to me? And I just was like, I'm a really big fan of yours. I said to her what I just said to you. I watched you snatch 106 at the first AO series. Like I was in your session, and I was like so humbled to be near you. And she, like, her face went from like, what the fuck, to like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like she was like taken aback by the fact that she had someone that was like a fan.
Mm.
And we ended up like talking quite a bit. And then she hit me up and like followed me on Instagram and hit me up after and was like, we should lift together. And I was just like, that's so crazy to me. Like we play this sport that you can literally lift with the people that you idolize,
Yeah.
and that they're just normal. They want to lift with you too. She was happy to have someone that like saw what she went through and still wants her back. You know what I mean? It was like a normal people thing that like for years I was like, I wonder what's going through her head. I wonder where she is. And like within like seconds of talking to her, I was like, she's just normal. None of the things that I thought were going through her head are probably going through her head. And it's funny
Mm.
that we like put them up on this pedestal, like they're supposed to feel certain things or act a certain way or be a certain thing. And it's like, no, they're just like me and you, and they just present how they feel is necessary and move on with their day.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Because no one really cares what kilos you're lifting. It's like, oh, you're snatching and clean jerking. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Can we do
Yeah.
it together and like share some like marshmallows between sets? And I was just like, yeah, man, and sit down and chat shit. Yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that's literally it. Oh, you're snatching the empty bar or a broomstick today? That's wicked. That's
Yeah. Looks like
literally
fun.
it. It's fucking cool.
And I try to tell like exactly what you're saying. Like I have friends who are like not weightlifters that try to get into the gym and they're like, yeah, well, I wouldn't want to go to the gym with you because you're like confident. You just walk right up and do it. And I'm like, I wasn't always though. Like you have to build that up. And first of all, second of all, nobody cares what you're doing at the gym. Nobody's looking at you at the gym.
Mm,
Like everyone's unless they're cheering you, especially in like a weightlifting gym, everybody's looking at you because everyone's cheering you on, but that's like a different situation. But like at like a regular gym that you're just trying to get in there and like figure out your fitness journey, like nobody is looking at you being like, what a weirdo. And if they are, then they're probably an asshole and who cares? Like you if you get in there and you're like trying to figure it out, if anything, people will recognize that and be like, damn, I wonder what she's gonna look like in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like
mm.
nobody's pissed that you're new in the gym or nobody's like judging you for being new in the gym. Everybody's had to be new in the gym before. And it's kind of the same thing with weightlifting where people are like, well, you're so strong. Like I couldn't do that. And I'm like, I couldn't do it when I started either. I could barely snatch the barbell. I had to start with a PVC pipe, but like, now I'm throwing up almost 200 pounds and it's like, like you have to keep that perspective.
Mm, mm. Seeing someone snatch for the first time, even if it is with a PVC, like it fucking lights me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because to get through like the mental fucking challenges they've had to go through to get into the gym, right? And
Hmm.
then to like attend a weightlifting class, and then to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this thing called weightlifting. So I'm going to lift weight, and then to do this thing called snatch, right? Which throws this object above your head in like one motion. They're just like, no, no, everything inside of you just says, no, don't do this. And you're still doing it and still throwing this thing above your head. And like, fuck, it's cool. It's super cool.
It's so cool. It's the best thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I
then you get a bar and they're like, oh, did that just happen? Just like, yes, it did, motherfucker.
that feeling too you watch on people's faces when they catch it just right and you just know right away and then like my favorite like some of my favorite like pictures or like flash moments of weightlifting are like right when someone catches it correctly or right when they just had like the best lift of their life and then they're dropping the bar and they're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that feeling, I wish I could capture it in a bottle and just like let it out every day. It's the best. It is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, like seeing someone super passionate when they're lifting, like that's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm usually that guy that like, especially if I'm coaching, I like throw things if I'm getting excited. And if someone's just done a good lift, I'm usually like fucking chucking things around the place, and they're like, "Oh, is this
Yeah.
guy okay?" I'm like, "I'm just super super pumped right now, guys." Like you just fucking threw like the barbell above your head or like whatever it is. I'm just like, this is fucking cool. Don't mind me. I'm just like
I
having a rave.
my teammate Ryan put together, he like I said, he's really funny. He makes wicked cool videos, but he put together like a little like mashup of reactions, like the reaction sounds that the team has as I'm lifting.
Yeah.
And it's like one of my favorite things. I'll go back and watch it all the time because it's like it's such a feeling, like it's such a specific feeling that you get like when you just know you caught it just right and they're like, ooh, like you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. Or like
Hey
if I could
now.
put together yeah, yeah, yes. All the reactions of the times that I just smoked a lift or that my training partner just smoked a lift and we're just like, like our last weightlifting meet, he did the same exact one as me. And I'm holding the camera from the back. Like I'm standing in the back because I obviously helped my coach in the back with him. And like, I love watching that lift because he's so happy he made it. But I love what like our reaction to each other that we just like slam into each other and like shove each other and get like wicked excited and we're like screaming at each other and it's like you're adults, calm down. You know what I mean? But it is like it's it is the best feeling in the world when you like hit the lift just right.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone else is just like It's funny because everyone is looking at you in a weightlifting gym, but everyone's looking at you because they want you to make it.
Yeah, it's so true. My dad came in 2018, the first time I made the American Open finals. My dad came, and that was the first time he watched me weightlift because he lives across the country. So if I'm competing locally, he's not watching.
Mm.
So he came, he flew out. We made a bet like years ago when I first started weightlifting that I would make it that far. And I really think he didn't think I was going to do it. So when I called him the day and I was like crying because I was so excited, I tried so hard to make it. When I called him to tell him, he was like, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "No, I did it." But but he came out to watch and he was like, he in hindsight, like he was talking about this the other day. He said at the end of at the beginning of the weekend, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna suck to watch weightlifting for 3 days," because he doesn't care about weightlifting. It's not his sport.
Mm.
And he's like, "This is not gonna be fun to watch." But he said that he was like enthralled in it by the end of the weekend because like he's like every single person, every lift they're taking, the whole room is just on the edge of their seat hoping they make the lift. And it's such like a energizing feeling
Mm.
to be a part of the audience while you're watching people lift. And he was like, I didn't hate being there at all for 3 days. I loved watching it for all 3 days. And I'm like, yeah, I told you, it's like the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, and like the different body types as well, right? Like you get someone who's in the same category lifting the same weight, but they look completely different. Or you see like
Oh yeah.
a tiny ass lady like just snatching double body weight. You're like, wait, hold on a minute. Like that should
Yeah.
legitimately snap you in two, and you've just thrown it above your back, thrown it above your head in one motion. You're like, well,
Uh-huh.
you just made me feel like a right bitch. And then you look at these absolute giants that come in and just pick up like insane amounts of weight, chuck it above their head, and just be like, yeah, okay, I'm now going to go sit down. You're like, oh, what just happened?
Yeah, dude, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's such a cool sport. I think when I look back at like the decisions I've ever made in my life, I used to be like moving to California was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. I don't think that's true anymore. Joining weightlifting was the by far best decision I've ever made in my life because and especially like I mean we've talked a lot about mental health over the last 2 days, especially because of my mental health, because it gave me a sense of community. Like I have met some of the best friends I've ever had in my life through weightlifting, and it gave me this thing that brings me so much confidence and joy that when I'm at like the lowest parts of myself, I always have something that like ties back that I'm like there is something, like I have purpose, like. And I mean I'm like I said, I'm a mediocre athlete, like I'm low level. It's not like I'm making a ton of money doing this or like have a huge following that I have some purpose to share with the world, but it is like it drives me every day. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. It gives me a reason to be excited about my life. And it's when other things like don't give me that, I still have weightlifting. And it's like
Mm.
one of the best decisions I ever made in my life was to join the sport.
That that fucking fires me up. I want to grab a barbell and start snatching.
Seriously.
Get it in my room. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say we'll never miss a Monday, but it's like Tuesday for you, right?
Yeah, it's Tuesday. Yeah.
Is it the same time though? Are you on the same time?
Uh, we're at 3:30 in the morning.
You woke up at 3:30 to have this conversation? My mind is blown right now.
Li- Listen, like I'm super fucking grateful you'd want to have a conversation with me. Like I said yesterday, like it fucking. In fact, I've been thinking about this all day. Yesterday, you just turned around and were like, "Oh, I wouldn't know why you wanted to talk to me. I would want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Wait, hold on a minute. No, I've got no idea why you'd want to talk to me. You know what I mean? Like this is still blows my mind, and people still like kind of listen in. I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. People are listening to me have a conversation with someone that I never thought I'd be able to have a conversation with. Like listen, like I've fucking honestly, there's been times where I've not eaten at night. I've been cold. I've been on the gym floor,
Mhm.
and I've been like, I legitimately don't know where the next fucking piece of food I'm gonna get is. Like, and I certainly can't afford it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's where I come from, and what people want to have
Right.
a conversation with me. It's like this is fucking insane. So I'm like, yeah, if it means I gotta get up a little bit early, like who the fuck cares? Like this is cool. Like I absolutely love it and will be forever grateful, and I hope it provides some value for some people. And I had this conversation with the owner of the gym all the time, right? She's just like, Alex, she just got to like calm down. And but I'm like, mate, let's fucking go, like what needs to
Yeah.
be done? Like, let's do this. Let's like run through a brick wall head first. And that's, I don't know, like it comes from necessity, it comes from we could say like a fucking dark place or whatever. Yeah, okay, cool. But something for me personally is like I'm okay, like I'm good upstairs if I have a purpose. And if I don't have a
Right.
purpose, I get very down very quickly.
Yeah.
And then, trying to get my family out of this shit. Like I am the first generation immigrant. Well, I am the immigrant, not the first generation immigrant. I'm the guy that came over. So I'm like still trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get people out and help my family and my close friends. And fuck it, if it means I gotta work
Yeah.
a bit more, then let's fucking do it. Like, so what?
Oh my God, that's crazy. I just, and it's like it looks bright over there, so I just assumed it was like around the same. I don't know what I thought. I could have looked it up and I didn't.
No, no, the
I was
time
like,
difference is crazy, man. Time difference is crazy.
I I went to Australia once and I remember like on the flight over, I was like calculating the time difference because I was trying to like sleep perfectly. So I would sleep 8 hours on the flight and
Mm,
then wake up like exactly at the time. And that the flight was like landing. So it was going to be like 6:30 in the morning there when the flight was landing. And this chick was sitting next to me on the plane and she was like, "Are you going to sleep?" And I was like, "No." And I told her my plan and I stayed up for the first like 10-ish hours of the flight. And I was like drinking coffee. That's why she asked. She thought it was weird. And I was like, "No, this is what I'm going to do." And I like told her exactly my plan. And I like snuck a couple of like weed gummies onto the plane so I could pass out exactly at the 10
nice.
hours and some Tylenol PM. And I told her the whole plan and she's like, "That's genius." And it like worked out perfectly, but it was such a mind fuck to wake up in Australia in the morning. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, and you're
And then
waking
she
up
was,
in like a completely
yeah,
different day, right?
yes. And she was like, when we woke up, she was like, "This was insane. Like, I can't believe you thought of it this way." And I'm like, "Because you don't want to waste your whole first day in another country with
Sleep.
like jet lag." But it was just such a mind fuck to just get over there and be like, "It's the morning of this day that I already lived." Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like I can't sleep on planes, so
yeah.
like the journey over here was difficult. Put it that way. It was like
Hmm.
20, 25 hours on a plane, something like that.
Uh,
Two stints. Yeah, I went to Dubai and then Dubai to Auckland. Um, but hey, it got me over here. You know what I mean? It's better than a boat.
yeah, that's gnarly. I traveled a lot for my last job and I've traveled a lot just all over different places of the world. And it I can sleep pretty much anywhere now. I have a hard time like sleeping at night because of my anxiety. It like keeps me awake.
Mm,
But if like if I need like a quick 20-minute nap, like I can sleep in the middle of anywhere. Like if I need
really.
that because I've been like traveling a lot or whatever, and I can definitely sleep on planes. Like I prefer red eyes so that I don't waste a day of my life traveling. I hate like wasting time traveling. I'd rather just like sleep through it.
Well, it's like you're teleporting, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the best.
That's why I used to like sleeping in the car as a kid. I'll just teleport
Yeah.
to the
Oh yeah.
destination. You just kind of go to sleep.
None of that thing of, "Are we there yet?"
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but it's not like the UK has any like travel time. It's like, oh, I've got to be in a car for 30 minutes. God damn, that's
Yeah.
so far away. Like, is
They
there any
haven't
point
sat in
going?
like they haven't sat in LA traffic then, huh?
No, fuck that. Like,
Takes
I've
you an
heard,
hour to go 4 miles.
no, 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 no. That'd just give me road rage. I'd be like, fuck this, I'm walking.
Oh yeah, for sure. For
No.
sure.
All right, mate. I really, really appreciate your time. I hope you're not late for work.
I'll figure it out. I'm in charge, so I'll be fine.
Oh shit. Make the rules, motherfuckers.
Well, thank you again so much. This has been such an honor to be able to speak with you. And like, I feel like I had a lot of great conversation, and I hope, whoever's listening to this can glean some feeling that they're not alone, or try something new, or attempt to tackle their mental health in a different way.
Yes, miss. Totally. And if you're ever in the bottom right-hand corner of the world, we'll go grab a coffee and throw a bar.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, make your way over here. You'll love the weather.
I'm not sure about that, but I'll make my way over. Yeah.
All
All right.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
later, Paul.